Hope you're all well and doing great. I know that it's crazy out there, but you know what? I feel calm and measured. The markets are volatile right now. I did not expect the markets to give up the gains from yesterday so quickly. You know what? We got a really exciting episode ahead. We're going to be looking at things like, well, it looks like that the markets might be about to crash. We'll take a look at that with something that we've been preparing for. And you know what? I don't want to be an alarmist or anything like that. The work that we put in, again, testing this level, if we take it down, this is a 45% move down over here in 2008. It's pretty bad. And that's from these levels that we're at right now. It's a little bit different in that in 2008, off the all-time high, Bitcoin was down. Bitcoin. We'll talk about Bitcoin in a little bit as well. But we got this important 35,000 level, big technical level that needs to hold. We got so much prepared, so I'm really been just waiting to be able to go online with all of you so we could get into the charts and get into everything. Start over here in the Nasdaq, down 4.67% as we speak. S&P 500 is down 3.5%, and it brings up memories of when we saw the markets going limit down in March of 2020. So maybe that soft landing is going to be a lot harder than people imagine. At least the markets kind of seem to be on the verge, right? We are right now, we're close to taking out that low. When we did in the 2008 bear market, you all know we've been preparing this. When did we put out the video? This was on April the 25th. So like the last 3 weeks, we've been preparing, always aware of our risk, preparing what could potentially unfold. And you could see that, well, that could be bad if we go back and look at the other time. The thing about Bitcoin is it's only been running, right, for the last 11 years. We don't know how Bitcoin would have reacted in the grueling bear market of 2000 all the way into 2002, right? That's when I began learning about the markets and how to trade. We don't know how Bitcoin would react during that bear market of 2008, both the financial crisis. We're not really sure. I think we all know and understand how Bitcoin would have reacted out of those. Nevertheless, under current macro environment, Bitcoin continues to hold up very well. And it continues, well, Cinco de Mayo to Cinco de Mayo, it is down 35%, right? That's notable today. And CTM 2.0 in that same time frame is up 19%. So there's a bit of a difference right over there. Back in 2000, we had at this similar time, this is when we break. This is like kind of where we are right now. This is coming from the work that we did together in the video over here. What happens if markets crash? And as markets are currently like, in that video, and it explains off that first massive pullback. This over here was a lot bigger than today, and Nasdaq had a 20% correction or so. This was a 40% correction back coming off the dot-com euphoric melt-up dot-com bubble, right? And then coming out of there, though, you had that was that first nasty 40% drawdown, and then you had two more, a 61% drawdown coming from where we are right now, like in a relative level, coming after that first drawdown. Instead of 40%, it was 20% this time, right? Then had that move up, and then we're coming down a lot quicker. We're coming than I expected we would. Nevertheless, we're coming down. We're near an area. If it doesn't hold, things could start getting very disorderly, and we could start seeing limit downs. And I'm not being an alarmist whatsoever. I'm totally calm and clear about it. We're just watching the levels. No crystal ball over here, doing what we could do to stay on the right side. I did think since January. So we were talking about in January that our base case was the markets would go sideways, right? And, even with the potential and possibility of making that new all-time high and in this range, we're on the verge where markets might not be going sideways. If they break down a little bit further, then they might not just be going sideways as our expectations are. And until that, gives way and breaks, continue to be. But hey, listen, it's on the verge of paying attention. Like I said, if the markets do begin crashing, I want to make sure I'm on the right side of that. Nevertheless, just let me make one more point. Back in 2000, after that initial 40% massive wake up, shake up drawdown, we then had this massive leg down, 62%, followed by another one that was 44%, lasting 2 years. Grueling. I mean, we're here now, up here on a relative basis, on a relative scale. This is potentially what could be below, and if something like that were, hey, listen, you want to be prepared. Here is this similar situation that occurred in 2008, and this is off that initial first like big like 24% drawdown, very close. Here we go, 24% drawdown, very close to what we're experiencing right now with the 22. And then, why I didn't expect this current, situation, the current state of the markets, to after the Fed March 16th last month, and the rip rallying. There it is. I didn't expect that to be negated so quickly, but it is. If we break down lower, I want to be prepared. I want to be seeing things very clearly. It's why we continue to put the work in. And final note, right? Look, this is where it's got a hold, and it has potential that it could. So continue watching closely. It's a similar situation here on Bitcoin. And if we do see that big leg down that we were just looking at on the equity markets, if we see some big technical breakdowns, at that point, Bitcoin's, why it's been holding up better than the equity markets, it's not immune. And there's no question Bitcoin could break that 35,000 big, important technical level on Bitcoin. Now, until it does, it hasn't. And we're just looking, I have a CTM 1.0 overlay over here, waiting for this next line of repair that, waiting at the same time also for the next green to appear, giving us the next entry over here on CTM 2.0. So let's take a look at this. This is really fun. This is really interesting. And we're looking at, 7.3 years. That's how long price has been, starting over here in January 2015 to where we are today inside this channel. We've seen that this channel is going up at an angle of 107.17 year over year, and this like bright line over here, we call that like the mean line, right? Now in this first area over here between this line, which price is normally trading above that line, it's very seldom, very rare trading below it. Actually, the only times it's ever traded below that line is this area over here in March 2020, and then over here, this area in August of 2015. It spent 120 days, roughly, below this line over here, out of its 7.3 years of existence since Bitcoin's been running. So its prices normally has been above that line. And actually in this first zone over here, it spent the majority of its time in the lower band. It spent 4.5 years in this lower band. Okay. Now above that band, it spent 1.5 years in this upper band. This is when Bitcoin is becoming, as far as we'll be valuing it, oversold, overbought, or overvalued. Now the thing is, it's lasted in this upper quadrant, and this is not including down over here. I started over here. It's debatable whether or not you wanted to go back 2 more years, right, over here to January 2013. It would be the same 107.17 angle, but price was in a euphoric stage at that point. If I were to go ahead and include that as well in that area, you would see that instead of 1.4 years in the, look at this. Look at that spelling. I'm so sorry about that. Euphoric, right? So spent 1.4 years in the euphoric area. It would be a lot longer if we included this bull market over here during the hype phase. We're not doing that, right? I'm not including the hype phase right now. In this area over here, though, not including that, we're still talking about 1.5 years in this euphoric area. So at this point, again, similar like we were just talking about trading out of drawdowns in bear markets, in the equity markets, it's the reverse when price gets, call it, or overvalued according to the model. And our expectations would be that price would be, knowing that it spends the majority of the time in this quadrant over here, that in the coming, by the summer, that price should be somewhere within this range. I have it as a rough $51,000 to $41,000. And that's my expectations on what would happen next. When price does trade below, and right now the markets are potentially, as we talked about, on the verge of much lower price action, I don't know what that would look like. If price were to break where I have the potential floor in, or the model's floor over here at $28,000, at that point, this time is different. Something's different. I don't know how to relate that to an adoption standpoint. It could be the macro at that point for a short period of time that has like high and severe precedents. I don't know, what would have happened in 2000 to Bitcoin and how Bitcoin would have reacted, or in 2008. And that's assuming that Bitcoin had the network effects that it has right now today. Like at Bitcoin at a $1 trillion market with the massive stuff that's built on top of it, would that have been able, how would that reacted in 2000? How would that reacted in 2008? I don't know. The one thing about Bitcoin is I believe that right now that most people, most large investors, they have their position on that they feel comfortable with. And I don't think they want to sell in any type of environment of what happens now, whether we're looking at some type of crash or we're looking at like a continuation of the music keep playing. Bitcoin seems to be the investment to hold. So I don't think that people are going to get margin called outside of an, except we were just talking about this. Let me play this for a second with you. It's really good. I'm starting at this section where I talk about it, and I'm talking about what happens if we break down from this channel. Now that we're currently very near or on the verge, right, of, well, I mean, I don't want to be alarmed. I don't want to be an alarmist or anything like that, because support, 35 is all the way down over here. We're still like 7% away or something like that. Nevertheless, Bitcoin makes those type of moves, 5% away off the low over here. I think it's really a good time to look at this video over here for these 3 minutes, 2.5, 3 minutes. Please go ahead and watch them with me. Technical breakdown. If we break down from here and people still are leveraged out on Bitcoin, they might get some real leverage calls. I would imagine around 24,000, below 20,000, a lot of people would be wiped out. It's happened before. If you do break down over here, everything's on the table, and I have no idea what happens. Now we do have some, we go ahead and we could, by the way, this clone over here. Interesting that we were talking about those type of dynamics that could potentially take place within the market, and now people are doing the math or running the numbers. I haven't checked them. I have no idea. But I've heard whispers of 21,000 or 20,000 being an area that MicroStrategy might be getting a margin call. What would happen if they were forced to sell? I mean, I don't know if they were or anything like that, or I don't know the specifics, but there could be a lot of unknowns. We want to be ready for them. That's all. You all know I've been worried about this, right? And we're on the verge of coming off markets under pressure today, coming off the Federal Reserve. Initial reaction was very good. I thought people were hearing, no one talked about it, but I thought people were hearing Jerome Powell was very consistent that he feels the economy is strong enough to allow for tightening. I think today everyone is like reacting to, oh, well, that means things are going to break and probably break a lot sooner. We'll see what happens. We're just watching the technical levels over here. Drew, make sure you watch this one from the beginning. Lots of good information shared so far as we begin this session. Boom, boom. I personally think that you have a large portion of the fold who continues to hold Bitcoin. About 65% of the network continues to hold on to Bitcoin for a year or longer. And I don't think that they want to ever give it up. Most of them. I do think that if we came down to 24,000, 20,000, we would see some unexpected liquidations that would really tear up the market. That would be a capitulation event, most likely, and that's a possibility. My model doesn't show us breaking $28,000. That's the expected floor that we're at right now. Could that change? Could it be different? Of course, it's not my expectations, though. I give it a low probability of that happening. If that happens, we could see some ugliness. And I do expect why some people could be liquidated around 20,000. And I don't even know what that looks like and what if it trades how much lower or anything like that. But it probably would be short-lived if something like that happened. It could be long going or continuing to move upwards. So trying to find a chart. It could continue towards this green box, right? This is only a couple of months out. over here in July. And that seems to be the most probable path of Bitcoin by that point. Now, if the markets are breaking and crashing between now and then, I mean, look, if the markets are going to break, they're a lot closer to the Fed pivoting right now than they would be otherwise. So I still think even if something breaks, it would be close to this area. I mean, at that point, maybe we're looking at something extended into the fall or something like that. And it remains to be at the end of the year or at the beginning of next year, $60,000 seems like the most probable occurrence on Bitcoin. And that's really, really bullish in so much if that is happening. And you're looking at Bitcoin putting in this nice, beautiful triangle to the upside. We've seen triangles to the downside on Bitcoin before after the massive bull markets, but we're not looking at a triangle, inverse triangle to the upside. And if that's happening coming into the 2024 halving, that's when we're seeing like the euro dollar futures market talking about the Fed pivoting to easing in 2024. That's what the market's currently pricing in. Now, listen, the market doesn't always get it right. It's probably sooner. It could be later. If that's happening, though, and it is sooner, I expect Bitcoin breaks out of this pattern sooner to the upside, right? And yeah, this is like a stealth bull market. Right here is the place to be accumulating. Know and understand your risks, but that's where we are. Yeah. Thanks, Chia. I appreciate that. I appreciate the love, Dean, from everyone. Thank you very much. Great session. That's it for today. I hope you all on this Cinco de Mayo have a beautiful day, and may God bless you. Talk to you tomorrow.